You know, insurance is not sexy at all, right? People usually hate it. So I joined Livework less than a year ago as a researcher. So you're not going to hear any consultant speech here. It's just kind of a post-mortem analysis of what Livework has developed in cooperation with Gjensidige. So I wasn't part of the project. Mine is more, you know, data analysis and interviews with the customer. So it's their perspective. And the reason why I chose this case is for two reasons. First of all, because of its length. This started in 2007 and is still ongoing. And second of all, because of the results they managed to achieve. So I'm really interested as a researcher in the impact of service design on business strategy. So I think this is one of the best examples that Livework has. So I'll start with the story, because, you know, I like storytelling. I think it's a very good way to setting the scene. And the story starts in 2007, when Gjensidige realized that there was something going on. I mean, there was competition starting rising. They were losing ground. There was not burning platform yet. They were still good. They had, you know, they were trusted by their customers, but they were realizing that something was changing. And it's a bit what Dion was telling this morning. Do you wait for the market to decide for you, or do you just, you know, jump in and make it happen? So I started thinking, okay, so how can we secure our space in the market? And there were three ways they could do it. First of all, could be cost, and this is what insurance does, right? The battle for price, and we see the rise of these fantastic comparison sites. But they didn't want to play that game, because they were very keen in quality, very keen to satisfy the customers. So they said, no, we're not going for cost. Second was product innovation. And again, insurance not being very sexy, they're very risk-averse, and just the idea of going for product innovation was completely too much for them. So they said, okay, third is customer orientation. So that's going to be ours. That was it. Very cynical. They just analyzed whatever was best for them. They just took it. So the CEO stood up and said, okay, so we'll be one of the top 10 most customer-focused companies in Norway, across sector. So that means that they were comparing themselves to BMW or Finn.no, which is kind of Gumtree website. That was big, and so what was the ambition? The ambition was to win cross-sector. It was to take customer centricity as business strategy. So they were seeing customer centricity as a way for business growth. It wasn't, you know, being nice to your customers, you know. It's not an NGO, this is an insurance. They just wanted to make more money. There was a pure business strategy. They wanted to align the whole organization towards that goal. And they wanted, of course, to build some cultural change, because that was the only way to do it. So they built this Gjensidige experience, and that was really to create momentum. So they decided to do that, and in our story there are three actors. The first one is the CEO, Helge. Then there are Kim and Hans. Kim and Hans are director of branding and head of brand and customer experience. And they said, okay, so we are on board. We decided that we need to keep momentum. We need to describe it. What is it? So they built this document, which was around 4 areas. The first one said, we need to keep up on our promises. So we need to be sure that whatever we promise, we deliver on it. We need to deliver quality, so we have to take it right at the very first time. We have to make the complicated simple. People need to understand, and this, you know, is a big deal for insurance, because I guess all of us have been through those 50 pages contract, very little, nobody understands this legalese kind of language. So they say we need to simplify. People really need to understand what is that they're buying with us. And the last one is commitment. So we are committing to satisfied customers. And this was the vision. So this is back in 2007. We shall know the customer best and care the most. This word care is really important, because insurance is a very processes, system-based, highly regulated. It's all about the product they sell. But care you need to do with people. You need your staff to be really buying into this idea. Otherwise, you will never be able to deliver it. So they built a framework around it. They said, okay, we are a lot of people. We need all our staff on board. We need to build a framework so that we can all speak the same language. Even if we use same words, we need to be sure that we're meaning the same things. So it was about consistency. It was about clear definitions of the area of improvement, defining the deliverables really clearly, really in detail. So it was about preciseness. But most of all, it was about backing it down inside the organization. This had to be something that the organization would drive from inside. And this is an example of it, this initial document they put up, right? Very, very specific. Speak a language the customer understands. Ensure that the customer understands what is she buying. Very specific, very precise, simple words, not business jargon, simple words, so that everybody from any part of the organization could understand them. And of course, there are several things to say here. They were at the very beginning, and there were several elements that were, coming into play. First of all was definitely top management. The fact that the CEO stood up and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to deliver for satisfied customer was really important. And then he said another thing. He said, if we want to do this, it cannot be consultant to do it for us. And I come from a consultancy, right? So they said, we cannot possibly ask for somebody external to make it happen for us. This is something we need to build from the inside. Keeping momentum was really important. Once we said we have to deliver on it, so starting really having some stuff that you can measure and see the impact that they can have. So they nominated a couple of agents of change. Each business unit had one person that was responsible to arrange workshops, to arrange initiatives, to coordinate with the top management. And they built a system for frequent reporting so that they could always have feedback on what they were doing. So they started a 2-year change program. And the change program was really led by our main 2 characters here, Kim and Hans. And it was training, it was workshops, and what they were doing was asking to staff, so how do you see this happening in your business unit? What can you do in your business unit? How would you like to improve customer experience? What are the things, give me some insights. So yes, it was a top-down initial approach, but then in reality, in the operation, it was bottom-up. They started asking them what they wanted to do with their time and their money, because there was no budget for this. So each business unit had to spend their own money to run their own projects, and they had to decide what kind of projects. And this is what they call empowerment. But it's not just, throwing the ball and saying, just do whatever you want with it, right? Now it's your own field. It was more helping them. So providing the platform, the tools, the time for listening. And they also say there is a company called Livework. They're experts in service design. They're not going to do this for you, but they're going to help you anytime you need. So depending on the projects that you're running, they're going to be there, right? So to make the long story short, they managed to develop 183 projects, which is quite a lot. They tried to make sure that each business unit was working at the same time on a list 10 projects because they wanted volume. They knew that some of them were going to fail. So they wanted volume, they want a lot of projects happening at the same time. And they developed those projects around 4 main pillars, which are simplification, organizational culture, which was really important because, again, let's remember this is insurance, structure, processes, products, data, very data-driven. It wasn't about people. It wasn't about customers at all. It was about the experience and the efficiency to prove that serving the customer better saves a lot of money in resolving incidents, in having to deal with complaints and things like that. So this is a nice quote for Kim. He said, empowerment is giving space to make necessary decisions. He said it's not just throwing the ball, as I said before, in their field, but really giving them the power to say, I'm going to press the red button because this doesn't work, and I have the power to do that. And for them, this was a huge shift. These all activities, so the workshops, the training, it started from data, because insurance. So they had data from customer satisfaction surveys, but they started trying to create cross-insights, to analyze the data with new lenses, to bring this data to the business unit, say, this is what we have, what do you think? So they tried to really extract insights from the staff and also from customers. And this is one of the main things that Livework did, was really bringing the customer view, the customer insights view into this whole framework. And what he said is that, you know, I spent lots of time with him, so I tried to annotate all the best quotes that I heard. And one of these was, you know, the focus on data makes us not appreciate insights enough. They're very data-driven, but the problem is that when you run customer service, then you end up with 100 truths, right? You have, like, people say this. On average, this is what they say. When you run focus groups, you know, when you run that kind of user research that Livework does, what you end up is not truths, because you're going to meet probably 10 people, but you're going to spend like an hour with them. So what you get is insights, and you can really work on it. So Livework was placed as a partner, and his strategic role was to really bring the outside-in perspective, because what I described so far is an inside-out approach. They just looked at themselves. They listened to their own people, to the staff, to their data. But what Livework did was bringing the customer perspective inside this framework and feeding inside the framework that they built. They provided support on relevant projects just if the business unit asked. And then they started introducing this idea of pilots. That, of course, in insurance, they don't pilot anything. So, you know, saying, try it on, see if it works. If it failed, move on. So they introduced this idea. So in general, tools and methodologies from service design that they could learn and use in the future so that they could own that change. So at the end, there were 31 projects over 7 years. Of course, this is still ongoing. I mean, this partnership is still going. This is not solution yet, right? This is in the middle of it still. And this is, the story ends. The story is ended here. And this started becoming really post-mortem analysis. And I sat with him and we tried to understand, okay, so what is that? How is that you succeeded in this? And he said, first of all, is support to top management. If the CEO didn't have the guts, because you need guts to do that, to stand up and say, we are going to be one of the best in Norway, then you're not going to do anything. People are not going to buy into it. And then he said another thing. You need systemized cynicism. What it means is that he said, when I started introducing this idea of customer experience, people were like, yeah, but we are not an NGO. We don't have money to spend, you know, in happiness. I mean, this is not what we do. We are insurance. We're data-driven. We're product-focused. This is it. And he kept saying, no, you know, this is business strategy. I'm going to prove you, and at that time he didn't have any data to support that, I can prove you that satisfied customers are going to buy more. So this means business growth. But he didn't have any data to support it, and you know, people had just to trust what he said. So you need to be cynical. You need to be, you know, it's insurance, we look at money, this is it. Everyone needs to be involved. That was really important. It kept, you know, going on that. People need to believe in it, and everybody needs to be involved. It's not something that just somebody does in the organization somewhere. It's the air that you breathe. Everything you do is going to be around that. And then empower managers. So just leave them the freedom to take their own decisions when they see fit. So again, it's a business strategy. start with low-hanging fruits. And that was really important because once you decide that your strategy is going to be customer centricity, then you really need to keep momentum to prove that, there is an impact, that things change, that, this thing is good. So they started with low-hanging fruits, stuff that were quite easy to implement, but they could show immediately result to the staff, to the people that were working on it. And then extremely important was reporting system. Not that they were, monitoring or looking all the time just to judge if you were doing or not, but it was more to provide the right support. So they were designing what projects they were running, the things that they wanted to do, but they were reporting back just to check if the timeline was right, if the results they were supposed to get, they were getting it, and if not, what kind of support can you have? Or is this the right project? Did the pilot work out well? And then measurement. And of course, for Kim, this was really, really important because he was holding the project. And he had to prove at one point some sort of effects. So this is what he believes. He says customer orientation is a belief, like a religion. Once you get into it, you cannot question it. You have to live it through till the very end. And the whole organization needs to believe in it. So it's a religion for everybody. So measurement. Of course, they were monitoring the all standards, like brand and competitor tracker, external monitors, cross-industry, things that everybody does. But what they introduced was the individual CSI. So people, frontline staff, people at the call center or in the branches, they would receive a scorecard from, the customer saying, you did well, great, done, well done, John, I'm going to come back to you, or not, it was really crap. And that review, the customer satisfaction, was coming and used into coaching or training sessions. So they would read all the different reviews that the customer would give them and use them to improve. But not only that, they started using that to affect the bonuses. So they were not receiving bonuses only on the basis of what and how much they were selling, but how satisfied the customers were. You can imagine it was panic, pure panic. People were, screaming around like it was some sort of fire. And they tried to explain, but this is good, because this is a KPI that you can actually have an impact on. Just smile, easy, right? And we are providing you the support and the methodology, and you are deciding what to do about that. So it's completely up to you. It took a while, but then people loved it. And this started to be the key of it, and this is why I decided to show this example today. Because when Kim started, and Hans and Helge started this journey, none of this was available from other companies, right? So they had, in a kind of sense, assume and believe, again, as a religion, the customer satisfaction who bring some sort of business growth. But now, after 7 years, they build up their own data. So here you can see, this is the data from call centers, and this is the kind of CSI, individual CSI that I talked before. So when this grows, sales per call grow exactly at the same pattern. So the more satisfied customers are, the more they buy. And this is data from 2010 to 2013. For them, there was breakthrough. Yes, this is pretty much a description of what the individual CSI was. Really, the ambition was to interlink individual performance to customer experience. The second one is high satisfaction score contributes to growth. So what happens is that this is, again, the satisfaction points from the individual CSI. And you can see that for satisfied customers, so it's the blue one, 5 to 6 points, they are more willing to spend in the next couple of years. So they spend more and more in the products they buy from the insurance compared to the people that are less satisfied. And last one is that high customer experience drives loyalty. So really what it says is that the more they are satisfied, the least they are willing to leave the company. So that was exactly back to the point. They started there, they didn't have any data to prove it, but they built it in a way that after 7 years, they managed to prove that this is a business strategy, this is a good investment for your company. Yes, of course it requires a lot of investment, of time, but then this is what it brings. So today, in 2013, Gjensidige is here. So this is basically the, I know it's Norwegian, but it's the Norwegian customer experience, customer satisfaction barometer, right? This is cross-industry, and they are number 11. Now the new one is going to come up next month. They're hoping to be in the top 10, so that's it, where we managed, right? But as you can see, they're next to Skoda, Spotify, Audi. There is no insurance here for the first at least 40. So they're definitely the best in their field, in the sector, but they managed to compete with some very sexy industries. And this is for loyalty. They're number 10 already. But if you look at data from 2007, this is where they were. So it's a big change. And one of the key things, because I kept asking, okay, but it looks amazing, but it must be really difficult. What is the most difficult thing that you encountered during this journey? And he said, people's focus tend to shift. Even if the CEO stood up saying we're going to be at the top 10, after 2 years, there is something else he was thinking about already. Everybody was thinking about something else. So to keep the focus and to keep people there thinking about what you decided, it was really extremely difficult. And he's still fighting for it. So he keeps saying, we're not in any way done with this, but we're working towards it. And I believe the Livework position in this journey was fundamental, was really important, to have a trusted partner you can go to for really knowledge, skills, expertise, methodology, that really deeply knows your organization and is able to provide customized, when it's needed, help. And that's it. Thank you very much.